It's a calm, quiet morning at Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya, but it's about to become very, very active indeed. This is the final qualifying session of the season. The first of 3 qualifying sessions here. They're going to be super quickfire, and they're going to have even more reason to be important than normal, because this circuit is very, very hard to get past. And through the course of practice, we've had a number of the top running teams down as low as 30th position in this 46-car field. The Ferraris have yet to show their hand. The Mercedes are looking good, but things may well be given a big shake-up here, and it's going to be super tight for all these drivers trying to get a space in traffic. My name is Bruce Jones, and John Watson is alongside me. This is going to be a super, super tight session.
Well, it's 4.675 kilometres of fun. For some teams and driver pairings, for other, it's been awful. And literally, we had to have a special one-lap run of a, what's the expression they use? A...
Hardship?
Hardship, that's what it is. Hardship lap for the number 32, WRTID. There is the car. I mean, of all the teams and competitors in the paddock, that this team is the one that had to take that hardship lap. They apparently was an issue, mechanical issue. Apparently something to do gearbox related. Whatever it was, they had to take that lap at the back end of Saturday afternoon.
Well, they were all at sea, but no such problems for the ACA 88 Mercedes. Raffaele Marcello, Jules Gounon and Felipe Fraga. That has been quick every single time it's been on the circuit, either first or second, right at the top of the charts. But this circuit famously changes according to the smallest whim of change of temperature. Mirko Bortolotti's been the other car that's been the gold standard, along with Andrea Cordarelli and Marco Mappelli. That 63 Orange 1 FFF Racing Team Lamborghini has literally not been off the front row in any of the endurance rounds. And in a packed field of 46 cars, that is some feat.
And they were being extremely economical with the amount of running they gave. Certainly on Saturday, they were very, very quick on Friday. They were quickest on the Friday morning session, second quickest in the Friday afternoon session, but sat out the bulk of the 2 1.5-hour sessions on Saturday. And the primary reason is they're saving as many new sets of Pirelli rubber to give each of the 3 drivers a new set for their 15 minutes of qualification, and then have an additional backup sets for then each of the 3 1-hour stints that the car will complete. And that puts them, I think, in a very, very powerful position. If they have managed to hold back that number of sets of tires, that is the key to getting a pole or a front row grid position. And then when it comes to your stint in the race, going out in rubber that's brand new, such a great opportunity.
Now, it's said the early bird catches the worm, and there's only 2 cars on the track. Bastian Boos, the Danish driver, was out first in the Allied Racing Porsche, and he'll be the first to get a flying lap on the board. Hopefully he won't be interrupted. In fact, he shouldn't be by any of the others coming out of the pits. The other 2 cars on the track, and now behind him the 3rd car's come out. But I think a very clever tactic, because so many drivers are going to get backed up into the final chicane. They'll have done 85% of their lap super well, and find some people on and out lap just not paying attention. And certainly the stewards are going to be red hot with people blocking flying laps.
Just 11 minutes of the session remaining, and there's 4 cars presently on track. As we're looking at the 222 Porsche, it is the car that of those 4 is setting purple sector times, sector 1, sector 2. So they've got the clear track. They've probably got a fresh set of rubber on the Porsche. You can't ask for more. Track temperatures and ambience are absolutely ideal for qualification. So out of turn 15 runs the curve as he then launches it into the final turn, turn 16. Not being too ambitious, very well, in fact, very generous on the use of the curb. So it comes across start-finish line and records the first meaningful time of 1:46.1.
Not too bad, and honestly, that could be the difference of 2 or 3 rows. By simply getting a good lap in, that might be the only lap that's not interrupted by any other traffic in this 15-minute qualifying session. We've only got 10 and a bit minutes remaining, so people on the track now have got clear track by and large. They can set their tyres, but none of the front-running cars have come out. But I think it's been a good move from drivers who've gone out early.
I think one of the Iron Lynx Ferraris just rumbling down the pit lane. The 51 car is the car that is the best position, in a sense, to take overall victory. But they, in terms of what they were doing on Friday, they were nowhere.
Really nowhere. That was the car that I was talking about, one of the front runners being down in 30th position. The sister car, the 71 Iron Lynx Ferrari, wasn't a great deal higher up the grid, and Callum Ilott described it as though they're swimming upstream at the moment trying to find a setup. We were debating whether any of the crews, and certainly Ferrari, were behind the curve ball. Audi, to an extent as well, were hiding their talents, but I'm not sure. I'm really not sure at all. But the Mercedes always look fantastic. Ezekiel Perez Compact pushing on very hard indeed in that Mad Panda Motorsports Silver Cup class Mercedes. And again, he's not interrupted by others in traffic at all. Turn 7 and 8. Okay, grip a little bit low in the morning, but it will come as it goes on. But I think it's more important to be out here now on clear track than with it being a few degrees warmer in the next handful of minutes.
Unquestionably, and Ezekiel Perez Compact through turn 9. Car looked a little bit slidey as it went to turn 5, now catching up to the tail of the Ferrari, overruns into turn 10, and that's basically distraction from the car ahead. The Ferrari steps aside, lets it go through, but nonetheless that sector, final sector time, will be affected by that little error under braking into turn 10.
Now Bastian Boots has just got a second flying lap completed, not quite as good as his first, but he's had 2 uninterrupted laps. I really think that was an inspired way to start the session. It may not be the fastest time come the end, but a 1 minute 46.1 is decent. I think maybe by the end of qualifying we'll get down to low 1 minute 45s when the big guns get out, but a lot of them are going to be interrupted. And so Ezekiel Perez Compact does squeak through despite that little error down at turn 10.
But he recovered extremely well in that final sector and actually made up time with purple. So this is the car, 51, Alessandro Pierguidi, and he is lucky at the minute. He's not got anybody who's going to have any bearing or effect on that Ferrari up already in sector 1. So what we were seeing on Saturday through those 2 1.5-hour sessions is going to be turned upside down with what we're going to see in these 3 15-minute qualifying sectors. 7 minutes remaining, or just under 8 minutes. So down into turn 6, and Pierguidi, all he has to do is keep running as he did in sector 1 through the final 2 sectors, and he will end up being quickest. It's still the 90 Mercedes of Ezekiel Perez Compact.
Okay, that's the championship leader. 13 points, the good, but certainly didn't look that good at all through practice at all. But he should be going to the top. Good news, the 188 Aston Martin is out today. That missed yesterday afternoon. They were investigating a cracked chassis. The team worked till midnight and beyond, so they deserve some form of fortune. But it's still Ezekiel Perez Compact, a little bit of twitching at the wheel then from the 51 Ferrari, but it's starting to wind up some good sector times. Can it go to the top of the table? At the moment, the new target it's 1 minute 46.072. Surely that is going to fall.
Yes, it'll fall on this lap unless there's something unforeseen in these final 3 corners. But what's very impressive is backing that up is Callum Ilott in the sister car. Callum Ilott has gone purple in sector 2, so the 71 are Lynx Ferrari. So who has gone quickest? Is it? It is indeed 1:45.6. More like the kind of times we were seeing on Friday morning, but still about 0.3 of a second away from the quickest time, which was the 63 Lamborghini.
Yes, I honestly believe that we could even get a 1 minute 44 if there's clear track, but I'm not sure we'll get it in this session. The track will get more rubber on it, so maybe the third of these 3 15-minute qualifying sessions will yield the fastest time. But Mirko Bortolotti in this number 63 Lamborghini, of course, their times get aggregated. We've got Callum Ilott to the top. You called it very well. So for a moment, Iron Lynx would like to freeze the timetable. Stop it right now. Their cars are first and second in this qualifying session, with the championship leader in second place, but just faster by nearly a 1/5 of a second. Callum Ilott, he's a driver who will probably be racing stateside for the next few seasons IndyCar.
Mirko Bortolotti's got traffic ahead, and it's going to come into play as he comes down into turn 10. So one of the Mercedes, the number 4 Mercedes, steps aside, but now into the heart of what is going to be, I find a way around it, just about gets through. So there was a good degree of cooperation, but I think the closing speed of the Lamborghini was probably, the Porsche spun up at the exit of turn 12. So into turns 13 and 14, down the hill, 0.6 of a second up. No wonder they didn't do a lot of running on Saturday morning and Saturday afternoon. They had performance up their sleeve by, 0.6 of a second. They're going to see possibly a 1:44 point something, 44.6.
Well, I thought we'd get into the 44s. I didn't think we'd get down towards the mid-44s. Adjust the tune on the radio for Mirko Bortolotti. But, of course, he's got 2 fantastic teammates, Andrea Cordarelli and Marco Mappelli. And we have an aggregate combination of their times that will define the grid. But the first marker really put down by Mirko Bortolotti. That has destroyed the opposition. 0.85 of a second to the good. That was magnificent.
I mean, he literally has monstered the circuit in that lap, and again he had to make small adjustments down in turn 10 to accommodate cars on the entry and then at the exit. But I mean, the pace that the Lamborghini has illustrated is, Callum Ilott, be careful. You do not flirt with the gravel on the outside of turn 16.
So let's take a look. So the championship leading car. Oh, I was just looking for car 32, and the Audi pops up into third place overall, and suddenly the championship leading car of Alessandro Pierguidi was second, is down into fifth place because Riachiro Tomita, well, as I speak, as everyone's moving around suddenly, but no one is getting within half a second of Mirko Bortolotti times. Marvin Dietz is up into second place at the moment in the TalkSport WRT Mercedes. Dominic Baumann, who did this yesterday, super fast in the Pro-Am class, fourth overall.
Campbell's gone third now in the 22 Porsche. So literally cars completing their lap, if it's a clear lap, are seeing improvements on those around them. And Marvin Dietz is the one really of all those in the top six that looks really, really impressive as well. In fact, Dominic Baumann, who's the leading Pro-Am. And there's spin. Mirko Bortolotti has spun in turn 3, I believe. That might have been the exit of turn 3, looking for the wider angle to see where that was around the racetrack. So Mirko Bortolotti, who's dominated the qualifying, this first session of qualifying, manages to get it wrong, and that'll have not been a very good move for the set of tyres.
Up into second place, a car that's traditionally at the front end of the field as well, the 88 ASP Mercedes. Raffaele Marcello goes alongside fellow Italian Mirko Bortolotti on the potential front row, but right now they're sitting separated by 4 tenths, nearly 5 tenths of a second. Let's take a look in the background, the 63 Lamborghini wide.
Coming out of turn 12. And that will do that set of Pirelli tyres no good whatsoever, and that will be a disappointment for the Lamborghini team, because that means that may compromise what they have available for the race later this afternoon.
Second in the championship, Dries van Tor. Fleetingly, he was up in second position on this qualifying list. We've got just under 3 minutes remaining. This lap not so good for him at all. I think so far the teams have worked really, really well to put their cars out in clear traffic. Yesterday I was really concerned. Now the McLaren that's been very, very quick on occasion. At the moment, Ben Barnicoat down in 16th place overall. That's not the pace we've seen of this car. Certainly 2 weeks ago when it was in Valencia, it was absolutely on the money. But right now, not looking that sweet.
Well, personal best in first and second sector. If he could get a green in this final sector, it will surely elevate.
Actually, could go up to about third place. Let's have a look.
No, it doesn't. Wow. Last time in the final sector.
And he continued in that vein. I quickly did the maths, and he could have been around Marvin Dietz area, maybe Matt Campbell. But the session goes on. But now suddenly there's a lot more traffic. The Kessel Racing Ferrari drifting offline and going back in. Number 2, Get Speed Mercedes looking to find support. That's been quick through the course of the weekend. Jim Plara at the wheel. He's sitting second in the Pro-Am class, but the leader in the Pro class is Dominic Baumann in 5th, and he is down in 19th and really hooking the tail out there, John.
Yes, I mean, it's we saw maybe 3-4 minutes ago, all these times suddenly just cascading down the timing and scoring. Still the Lamborghini by almost half a second from the Mercedes 88 of Marcello. No real further progress. Phil Keane maybe in 21st position in the number 19 Lamborghini, the sister car to the 63. There is the 32 Dries van Tor, and basically I think he's done what he's done, and that's about it.
Now the concern for the championship leader, Alessandro Pierguidi, the driver who had that amazing end to the Spa 24 Hours when he came through to win in the closing laps. He's down in 12th place. You know, he did his time early on compared to some of his rivals, but just hasn't been able to work on that.
Last chance saloon for Dries van Tor, just over a minute remaining. So he was backing himself up, looking for clear track. He's found that clear track. You see now, well, this is looking down from the exit of turn 9. Up from turn 10 to Dennis Marshall doing a strong job, or certainly has done a strong job, but currently only 22nd in the attempt to racing Audi. Nothing that looks as if it's going to shake up his opportunities to move further. And again, looking at just Phil Keane and David Perel all the way down to 38th of the only 2 cars on track who have made a small improvement in time.
So we're deep into the final minutes of this qualifying session. It's a Lamborghini from 2 Mercedes, a Porsche, another Mercedes, 2 Audis, with the championship runner-up at the moment, Dries van Tor in 7th, and the best of the Ferraris is 8th. That's Callum Ilott, but the sister car has moved on down the order, down in 12th place, I said, for the championship leading Alessandro Pierguidi. Looking to the Silver Cup class, of course, that championship is led comfortably by the number 14 Lamborghini, but we have to look and hunt for Alex Fontana down in 18th place overall. So, but he is sitting on a huge championship lead in Pro-Am. It's Chris Froggatt's car we have to look for. And the checkered flag is out, no change at the top. Will there be some scramble around the middle order? Ben Barnicoat didn't improve. He stays in 17th place. But for ACA ASP, Jules Gounon looking on.
Q2 will start at 9:22. Q2 will start at 9:22.
Okay, so just seeing a slightly wry smile from Jules Gounon, but when you've got one of your first bullets fired and you've got a second on the grid, that's a good aggregate time. But that gap to the top, to Mirko Bortolotti, best part of half a second, that's a really nice, tidy advantage to build on in the next two sessions.
It's a lovely cushion for your follow drivers. Marco Mappelli, no doubt, will be second into the 63 Lamborghini, and Andrea Caldarelli will do the final stint. We would assume that'll be the format that they will follow. But wow, look at the 31 Audi, way wide, coming out of turn 9 and bouncing as it came back onto the tarmac, locks up momentarily. So where is the 30 in timing and scoring? Well, it's down all the way. It says James Poole behind the wheel. It's down in the 34th position. So there it is, and still, doing what he has to do to try and drag that car up a little further into the heart of the grid, because right now this is the tail of the grid that he's facing.
And that really does make it a mountain to climb. And of course, what you would expect, when you have the Pro-Am combinations, you may get them sort of artificially high up the order at the moment. That's Dominic Baumann in 5th place in Pro-Am, but of course he is the quickest driver in that car, so his teammates, with the best respect in the world, would not be matching that position. But it's a good marker for them to dominate Pro-Am in the SPS Automotive Performance Mercedes. 5th overall, another good job done by the 88 ACA ASP Mercedes, always a strong qualifier. But bragging rights, even with that spin, to Mirko Bortolotti. I thought we might get a time in the 1 minute 44s. I didn't think we'd just get the one. I also didn't think it'd be 1:44.6 seconds. That was super special. That was right on the money.
I was looking maybe at 44.8, 44.9, but clearly all the work that had been carried out over the previous days of running, but especially on Friday by the Orange 1 FFF Lamborghini team, worked to their advantage.
Well, let's take it in as an advantage there. You can see 0.466 of a second. So Mirko Bortolotti stuck it on top. Raffaele Marcello, his Mercedes, into 2nd place. Marvin Deans, hats off to him. That is a really strong crew now, the Top Sport WRT Mercedes that leads the Silver Cup standings this morning in terms of positions in qualifying. Matt Campbell, another great job for him in the number 22 GPX Racing Porsche, goes 5th. And the leading Pro-Am runner, Dominic Baumann, he's sharing with Valentin Pierberg and Martin Conrad, but he's done a great job for them to put it 5th on the order. But you have to look down to 12th to find the championship leader. That's Alessandro Pierguidi. Another likely front runners who've tumbled down the order are found on the 2nd page as well. So this order is going to continue to shuffle. But what we saw were the Ferraris just weren't on the money yesterday. Slightly close to the pace today, 8th and 12th. But it's a real scramble, and it's 3 15-minute qualifying sessions. The team's already deep in thought about what they're going to do in the second one, and will they try and emulate what we saw from Allied Racing, going out super early and having the track to themselves? I think a few others will take the early bird. Well,
I think one thing we'll see is that the pro teams will gradually rise to the top, because as the Pro-Am or the Silver Cup cars, let's say that one would expect the standard of driving in a pro car to be that little bit higher than the other two categories.
Well, let's go down here for the man who was fastest. It's Mirko Bortolotti.
Mirko, that was an incredible lap. You really pushed hard.
Yeah, I did. Perfect lap. As we know, on this track, the tire degradation is huge, so if you manage to do it at the beginning, you have a big advantage. I had a clean lap, so just a little bit of traffic, turn 10, but didn't cost me that much. So at the end, I'm really happy. We did a great job. On Friday, especially yesterday, was kind of day off because we didn't have tires to run in free practice. So we did everything we need to do on Friday, and the car seems to be working well. But we still have 2 qualies to go, and then we see where we are for the race.
Absolutely. Surprised to see you spin, though.
Yeah, I made a mistake. And just tried too hard, put the wheel a little bit outside, and it was just that little bit too much to make me spin. Luckily, no crash or something. I just had a spin and came back to the pit lane, and didn't bother any drivers coming after me. So yeah, just a spin, but at the end of the day, P1, and that's what matters. And yeah, good.
Exactly. Absolutely. Thanks, Mirko. Well done.
Sounds like the party started already down at FF1.
Yeah, I mean, there we see the spin, and just ran too wide, coming out of 12, and got the left rear over the curb and onto the gravel. The trouble is that Violet was, he said, oh, I didn't hit anything. It's not what you hit and what don't hit. It's the fact the set of tyres that you've just done your time on would have been a lovely set of tyres to have had as either your set to start the race on, or if you haven't got new sets available, that would have been the standby set. So that set of tyres has been certainly marginally compromised. The team will have to examine it in conjunction with the Pirelli engineers to make sure that there are no potential flat spots. Maybe the left front did lock up momentarily just before the car came to a standstill.
Yeah, but I thought it was also quite a clear point there that he didn't interrupt anyone else's lap, because certainly having a spin, the next few cars can back up. But because he just carried on straight on onto the old circuit, effectively, before where it used to go straight on before turn 13 was created, the dreaded turn 13. Now this McLaren, not where we expected it. Ben Barnicoat's lap good, I think, in the end for 18th position. Oliver Wilkinson will take it over, then Rob Bell will go for the third session. But if they're mired in that middle order of this 46 car, I'm just going to repeat that again. What an incredible array of cars, but it's going to be very, very hard indeed. I really do feel, qualifying is important, all circuits, but I think here more than any other one on the endurance circuit.
I mean, it's a 46 car field on a 4.6 or 2.9 mile lap. You do get a lot of bunching, and of course once you get into one of those bunches you lose your momentum. The usual story, you just can't run at the pace which would be your natural pace. The pace is being dictated to you by those that are, maybe you've got an AM in the car, maybe it'll be a Silver Cup car, whichever. And that's why I think as the second and third sessions unfold, we will see more of the fully pro-driven cars gravitate up to the top 5 rows of the grid.
Now, we've just seen the car that's leading the Pro-Am class on points. That was the Sky Tempesta Racing Ferrari. And the car that's leading the Silver Cup class is the one in front of us. No wheels on it at all at the moment. This is the number 14, Emil Frey Racing Lamborghini. Alex Fontana, Rolf Eichen and Ricardo Feller, all just looking to keep on logging the points. But this is the final show. And, of course, here at the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya, not just trying to work out who, again, to win the 3 endurance title. It's the Pro-Am and the Silver Cup, but also we'll do the aggregate combined with the Sprint Cups as well to get the overall positions across the entire Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe.
Well, one of the Silver Cup cars is, I think, rolling down the pit lane already, and that is once again the 222 Team Allied Racing Porsche. I just caught a glimpse of it quickly. So it wants to be, again, I believe, at the head of the field to get out and get that clear opportunity before then the Thundering Herd join in midway through this 15-minute part 2 of qualifying session.
Well, first car onto the circuit is the GPX Racing Porsche. Earl Bamber looking to get that clear track that's so valuable. And ironically, the next 2 cars onto the circuit are 2 that cannot score points this weekend. They are Evolution cars. Dennis Lind is going out in the 26 Evo 2 Audi R8 LMS run by Santalot Racing, and BMW Motorsport has brought the car that's going to take over from the BMW M6 GT3. It's the large-nosed, effectively, BMW M4. Augusto Farfus at the wheel of that. They can take places in the race, but they cannot score points. But it'd be a point of interest for both of us, John, to see how they're fair.
Well, what we saw over the 2 days of running was that they were pretty much sort of middle of the grid performances. But we don't know. It's only now when we get into qualifying, when teams are running on new rubber, the true pace of these 2 sort of interloping cars in this final round will give us a picture of where their performance is. And certainly we saw a massive performance gain from the Audi, particularly up at turn 9. Finlay Hutchinson at one point was 6 kilometres quicker than the rest of the field. I mean, 6 kilometres in a GT3 world right now, that will be 60 kilometres. It's massive. And likewise the BMW, I mean, very, very, very sophisticated car, massive. The whole front end of the car is pure aero. And again, expected to see someone like Augusto Farfus behind the wheel right now, performing nearer to what the potential that M4 will be.
All interesting comparisons again, side by side, really count. So Felipe Fraga is going around with the 88 Mercedes, second fastest in the first session in the hands of Raffaele Barcelo. Now it's the Brazilian Felipe Fraga, and John pressing on, but he's not too close to the car in front. That is magical for him in terms of setting a time.
Yes, he's just set past his first sector. He has to obviously keep an eye, because the car directly ahead of him is going to come into play very, very soon as one of the back of a Ferrari. I think it might be the 11 Kessel Racing.
It is indeed.
So he pulls over to the side again. Good cooperation between different drivers, different categories, and being aware that this is qualifying and trying to give everybody a fair opportunity. The 88 is out a little earlier than it was in Q1, but it's Felipe Fraga behind the wheel of the car. the Brazilian, who is, you know, a pretty impressive driver whenever we see him behind the wheel of this car. But he's got Raffaele Marcello there as the basic team principal, team leader, and then backed up by Jules Gounon. Again, a very strong three-driver lineup in the 88 ACA ASP Mercedes.
There's no way you're not going to win these races outright without a super strong three-driver lineup. Some good pace coming from the BMW up ahead of it on the circuit, but for Felipe Fraga, just turns 14, 15, use the curves, but only a tiny bit. Those in Ferraris tend to stay off the curves there. And now Dennis Lind goes to top, 1 minute 45 flat. That is very, very impressive from the Evo 2 Audi.
And indeed, I mean, that we haven't seen that time, and Fraga now goes quickest of all on a 1:44.8, so that's very much back in, well, effectively will be in the pound seat, because we're waiting to see a time come from this car, Marco Mappelli, almost 3/10 of a second up, slides the back of the car coming through turn 4. But this is the gold standard of right now of times.
Only driver to get under 1 minute, under 30 seconds. And Bortolotti also did it in that car. So the first sector, no wonder the car looked so good through the first sector of the lap. The 63 Lamborghini from Orange One FFF Racing Team, a little close to the car in front, which is
the 90 Mercedes Mad Panda, and it's on its own lap. So who is behind the wheel of that? Looking to see it is Joshua Pohaka. So he stays on the right. Mappelli has to go marginally offline, but gets clear, gets back onto the line to enter into turn 10. But, well, a personal best in sector 2. And maybe that personal best could have been a purple if he hadn't to make that minor compromise just to get around the number 90 Mercedes.
So as it stands, Felipe Fraga for now at the top. Dennis Lind second in the 26 Evo 2 Audi. And Thomas Drouet, backing up ACA ASP's form, goes third. And he's running in the Silver Cup class. He's currently top in the Silver Cup. And Sam Dehaan, fleetingly, maybe, is top of the Pro-Am pile in 7th place overall. How good is that going to be from Mappelli? Goes top and 44.631, so about as close as could be, just 0.03 of a second slower than teammate Mirko Bortolotti, who thought he'd put as good as the perfect laps in. That car is on rails.
So Felipe Fraga comes up to complete another lap, but Mappelli has done the business to get the 63 Lamborghini consolidate its position. I don't think this is going to be any improvement for the 88.
No, within a 1/10 of a second at 1 minute 44.87, followed by 1:44.97. Good average. Jules Gounon is doing the maths. He's now worked out what he's going to need to do. And that's almost get down to 1 minute 44 flat if they're going to topple that 63 Orange One FFF Racing Team Lamborghini, because at the moment that's sitting with a 0.2 of a second advantage, and in the first session it had a 0.4 of a second advantage. So it really is piling up the numbers against the ACA ASP 88 crew at the moment.
It's interesting that currently it's the Evo Audi that is the third quickest car combined, and that's indicative of where we will be looking in 2022.
Certainly is. It's always interesting to look forwards rather than backwards. Now, this 87 ACA ASP Mercedes, very well driven by Thomas Drouet, who seems to get better and better. 1 minute 45.3, his best so far. Well, he may just squeak it through. The first sector wasn't good. If he has a good final sector, 1 minute 45.5, so no improvement. But again, 2 consecutive laps pretty close together, just over a 1/10 of a second separating them, but no improvement. But 5th place certainly to be smiled at for ACA ASP.
Yeah, that's the Silver Cup ACA ASP entry. So Koen Ledegaard in the 51 Ferrari, and looking to see where, as this is, he's on his out lap. He's actually completed an out lap. He's now on his flying lap. So half a second personal best in sector 1, but that's only comparing to his out lap. So down into turn 5, need to get the nose tucked in a little bit. You think, just looking at the amount of steering lock that Ledegaard had to put into the Ferrari to get it to turn into turn 5. It's one of the more technical corners around this Barcelona circuit. It falls away from you, and if the front isn't really hooked up, you're having to wait all the time before you can get back on the throttle. Through turn 9 looks a little bit more, the front and rear working together at the higher speed, the effect of the aerodynamics more prominent. Personal best yet again down into turn 10.
Always slightly deceptive, those personal bests. You've got to go faster than you did on your out lap, but that's all it's being compared against, of course, in these super fast sessions. Just 3 15-minute sessions. A good run from Yusuf Bahaka. He went up into 5th place. Let's see where Koen Ledegaard will go. This is the car, the championship leading 51R Lynx Ferrari, only 12th in the first qualifying session, ergo a long way behind the pace of the 63 FFF racing team Lamborghini. The lap nearly completed, using the curbs a bit more than maybe he wanted, but he's desperate to get a time. Where will the 51 Ferrari slot into the times? In 6th place. Well, I think that's actually a very, very good lap indeed.
That is 6th combined. It's 7th in this session.
Again, yes, all the times will be combined across the 3 sessions, and that will define the order. So yes, we've got split screens looking at combined and overall, but 6th place in this session.
Rob Friens in the 32 Audi. Again, this is the car that had that hardship lap on Saturday evening to see if they've rectified the issues which they seem to believe are in the gearbox area. I don't know quite what they would be, but anyway, it may have been good work. So Rob Friens' personal best all the way around, and that car is overall 8th.
Okay, that's there or thereabouts. Suddenly becomes 9th in the session. Times still coming in. Christian Engelhardt, the Dynamic Motorsport Porsche number 54. We're looking at the sister car, but it's early at the wheel. But the faster of the pair always is the 54 car. That went up into 5th place overall. Lucas Stoltz just pushed it back down to 5th because he's put that number 4 HRT Mercedes, always a factor, into 4th place. We've only got the 2 cars, the 63 Lamborghini, the 88 Mercedes, below 1 minute 45 seconds. Dennis Lint in the Evo 2 Audi, flat on that.
And the number 4 Mercedes, Lucas Stoltz behind the wheel, that has also come alive, one might say, as has the 54 Porsche we were just talking about.
Will there be any improvement from Colm Ledegar? Unfortunately not. The middle sector has gone away from him unless he can do something special here, but he's got traffic at the Ram Racing Mercedes ahead, and doesn't look as though the attitude of the car is sufficient to rise up the order. Down in 11th place now as those quicker times came in from Lucas Stoltz and Christian Engelhardt, so tried as hard as he could, but alas, in this session that hasn't really worked.
No, it looked very sort of uncomfortable if you were going into turn 13, just didn't turn in, and then of course you have to wait and get off the throttle before you can then make your turn through 14, back through 15, and then finally onto start-finish straight. So a poor end of the lap for the 51 Ferrari.
And so currently the 51 Ferrari on combined session 1, session 2 is down in 10th place, immediately behind the sister car, but importantly an entire second down on the 63 Lamborghini. Jack Aitken back in the frame, up to 6th place. His first race since his accident at Spa-Francorchamps. He's put the aches and pains behind him, and so he is the top Lamborghini, sorry, he's the second Lamborghini runner. Of course, we've got the 63 Lamborghini on pole position. For Emil Frey Racing, that was a good lap for the British driver.
Yes, and encouraging to see Jack Aitken getting back behind the wheel of the Lamborghini and being able to rebuild the confidence in one sense, but actually get a grip of the car and be the lead Emil Frey Racing Lamborghini. So kicking up the back, was that Oliver Wilkinson, and the McLaren got the wheel off the curb coming through turn 12, I think it might have been.
Riding on board with Jonathan Cui in the Sky Tempesta Racing Ferrari. This is the car that leads the Pro-Am title race at the final round of 2021. And at the moment that lap puts 29th. Just remember, that's still 17 cars behind him. It's 46 cars going out to qualify. That is why some of them will trip over others in this qualifying session. We've got 3.5 minutes remaining, but so far it's been everyone's been behaving very well because they know the stewards are going to be looking for them. 2 of the Emil Frey Racing Lamborghinis, Giacomo Altoe in 163, in front of that queue, and there it is. Sorry, the second in the queue. Using each other maybe as a little bit of defence, but the car in front pulling it over. That's the 114 car, but that was the car that Aitken had already set his time with, and is just bringing that back to the pit. So he keeps out of the way of his teammate. Altoe pressing on. He needs to press on. Needs to get a time on the board. He's 11th place at the moment. Ought to improve. His first sector was not that good. The second sector has improved. He can find a 10th second or so. He could go up several positions, maybe a couple of rows even. So the Italian super busy this year, racing in the States last weekend, back here. A little adjustment coming out of the final corner out of turn 16. Does not go faster.
Small improvement for the number 7, Berkeley Besler in the 22, and that's gone. I beg your pardon. It is. Yes, that's not the 28, the 7. TalkSport Mercedes. So that's found itself into 22nd position. Just one of the few bits of green that we're seeing coming up on improvement times. with just 2 minutes remaining.
Yeah, just to highlight, Giacomo Minotto did actually improve, going 10th in the second, good for 14th overall for the 163 Lamborghini. To just combine, that's concession 1 and session 2 combined, but session 2 is not over. Just trying to see who has still got a quick lap in them. Looking for more green on our screen, and Max Hoffa picking up the pace in the 99 Attempto Racing Audi. Others just bringing it back in. Rolf Eichen now, the number 14 car that has the Silver Cup at its feet here at Barcelona, and looking to put in the time, because wherever, of course, we've got the 3 races combined effectively, haven't we, John? We've got the Pro class, we've got the Silver Cup class, and the Pro-Am, but sometimes it gets a little bit obscured when they're all racing together. You draw your eyes at the front of the race, but the very handy thing about the 14 Lamborghini, it's almost always at the front end of the race anyhow when we go looking for it.
Another good performance is from Fabio Cristini in the Rinaldi Racing Ferrari, the 33 Ferrari. It's found itself in this session up to 8th quickest, and that sort of popped up under the radar. We're still following the 163 Lamborghini as we go down to the 99 Audi, so it's a little bit further down. Get it on. There's a maximum for 15th in this session.
Yeah, it's interesting though, with Crestani going up to 8th in the session, that still only elevates the 33 Rinaldi Racing Ferrari he shares with David Perel and Benjamin Hites to 18th overall. It shows the sort of the dichotomy between the various qualifying sessions. Still one more session to go, and for a majority of the teams, they're now back in the pit lane getting ready for qualifying session number 3. It comes thick and fast, but if you're in 63 Lamborghini crew, you've got a smile on your face. Not too bad at the 88 ACA ASP garage as well. Felipe Fraga explaining all to Jules Gounon. He'll be the next driver, the 3rd of the trio, to get out and do his stuff.
Car that's been impressive at TalkSport Mercedes. That's Berkeley Bessler behind the wheel. So he's on his final lap, just 10 seconds or so of the session remaining. So what we were anticipating is that as we go through the second session, we're seeing more and more of the pro cars. In fact, the top 6, top 7 actually, but are all pro cars in 4th position in this session.
And the top Silver Cup is in 8th, which is the 87 ACA ASP Mercedes. And this Berkay Bessler, you know, he's stepped up very quickly. He's only 21 years old. He's racing in the GT4 series as well, predominantly this year. But the Top Sport WRT car was well placed in that first session. It was 3rd fastest overall, but at the moment it's down. Look down the order to 11th place on combined times. And it doesn't look as though, unfortunately, this final flying lap from Berkay Bessler will move him a great distance up the order. He's down in 21st position in this session. Combine it with the 3rd position from the first session, and I'm afraid that car is dropping down the order sheet.
So Q2 is complete, and well, virtually every car is in the pits. There's only about 7 or 8 that are still on track, and they'll all be making their way in, and then going through a quick driver change, another set of wheels and tires, and before you know it, we'll be back on track.
It's certainly, you know, I was actually surprised to see Jules Gounon still not helmeted, getting ready to go out in the 88 ACA ASP Mercedes, because there is such a short break. But again, it was more important for him to spare another minute, talk more to the driver just out of that car, Felipe Fraga, and get any small inkling of behaviour of the car, because they've got to counter a 1/3 of a second disadvantage on combined times to the 63 Lamborghini from Orange 1 FFF Racing Team, who certainly had the ball in their court at the moment.
Well, talking about the 88 Mercedes, one was assumed that Raffaele Marcello will be the driver who will drag the greatest performance out of the car, but Jules Gounon will probably have another view, and he will try certainly to put the 88. It's on the provisional front row of the grid anyway, but it's a matter of maybe partly of pride and also the belief that if you are on pole position, you've got the best shot down into turn 1. It's a rolling start, remember. So turn 1 in itself in the past has always been an area of confrontation. Hope that isn't going to be the case this afternoon. Hope it doesn't spoil the race of many of the front-running cars on that first corner in the opening lap.
Well, it's almost sort of cast into the history of this circuit that many a driver down at turn 1 gets caught in someone else's incident as they come back on the track. But a 1/3 of a second to the good for Marco Mappelli. So first in the first qualifying session, second qualifying session, it's the same story. And again, with the 88 Mercedes backing it up, second in both those sessions. Maro Engel, Lucas Stoltz, Nico Bastian, their car is now up after the time set by Stoltz into 3rd on the combined order. And don't forget, we are continuing to combine the order. 4th place is the Evo 2 Audi, but a few cars dropped down the order, and the championship leading number 51 Ferrari is only 12th on combined times at the moment. The car that's chasing it, the 32 Team WRT Audi crew, are in 7th, so they don't want to be starting there. They've got to find another row or two between the pair of them to get up to the front, to hopefully keep out of trouble and hopefully stretch their legs and find an advantage. Of course, there's 3 hours of racing, but it isn't easy to overtake here at the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya, John, is it?
No, and the other factor that undoubtedly will come into play will be a full course yellow and then a safety car intervention. So that in itself also can, just causes more backups, and then you might say in itself might be a cause of further incident. It's just part of the nature of this racetrack. It's 16 turns, and it's about just basically a rhythm and trying to find that rhythm, but it gets broken very easily because of the way that you get this packing of maybe up to half a dozen cars at a time.
So, driver 2, step aside, pass on the knowledge. Driver 3, get in, get strapped in, do all your final checks. But the Chinese team, Orange 1 FFF Racing Team, can they make it yet another front row start? Can it be yet another pole position? Andrea Caldarelli, the driver with that task in his hands. Jules Gounon will be the driver challenging in the 88 ACA ASP Mercedes. Those 2 cars, remember, have been first and first, second and second across those 2 qualifying sessions so far. And I must say, the message seems to have got through from race control to the drivers: do not block other drivers. I've been very impressed how every time we've looked, the drivers have made space for themselves, and there's been big awareness with drivers on their outlet, John. Thank goodness.
Yes, in fairness, I think more than we might have seen over the previous 2 days.
Well, so the 63 Lamborghini going very well. Is it a late championship charge? Let's find from Marco Mappelli.
Could this be a last-minute championship surge for you guys?
We try. We spoke yesterday, and we say that we did quite good practice, especially on Friday in the paid practice. Yesterday we were a little bit short with the tires from the other races, so we just managed to do our job, and this morning is paid off for sure. Cold temperature is helping us more than hot, so we see during the race everybody's doing a good job anyway.
Well, traditionally you guys have been very good here, very strong here, and certainly your confidence showed that yesterday.
Yeah, today more than yesterday, but yes, our car actually is working well. The grip level is very low for everybody. You see everybody sliding, which is not nice, but it's the same for everybody, so we have to do what we can.
Great lap, Marco. Well done.
Thank you.
See what Andrea does.
Quite a confidence there, I'd say.
I think what we're seeing now is what we saw on Friday when both the 63 Lamborghini and the 88 Mercedes dominated those 2 sessions. And of course they held back their cars, did very little running on Saturday. I'm talking about the Orange 1 FFF race team. So they were slightly compromised, but I think what they had done on Friday was sufficient to give them the confidence to know that we don't need to go out and pound around on a circuit where it does change considerably from the ambient and track temperatures we're seeing right now to what we will be dealing with come the start of the race at 3 o'clock. So they've got a level of confidence. If they get their car on the front row of the grid in pole position, they are in a very, very strong position to control or dictate what will take place over the following 3 hours.
And through the 2 90-minute practice sessions yesterday, the second one was at the time of the start of the race this afternoon, so they had plenty of time trying the track, as it will be hopefully this afternoon. In fact, the grey clouds starting to peel away, a little bit of blue sky above the circuit. It looks a little bit grey on camera, but we may have a brighter day, we may have higher track temperatures. Iron Lynx, number 51, the car that leads the championship chase, but after 2 of the qualifying sessions, it's down in the outside of the 6th row, 12th position on combined times. So one really feels it's going to be a mountain to climb for Nicholas Nielsen, and they're just over a second down on aggregate, so it'd have to be even the most superb lap from the young Dane will only move it up maybe 2-3 rows.
And that's where they're going to start. Let's say they start on the 6th row of the grid. They're going to have to start getting creative in terms of race strategies, or when will we bring our drivers in. Of course, you've got to bring them in within a window, but sometimes you can open that window earlier or have it open later. Lots of things that teams will be thinking about, and again, it's how you're going to manage traffic and where you will slot back in on the circuit when you return. And of course, as I mentioned, there will undoubtedly be a series of full course yellows, safety car interventions. and you don't want to get caught out, which is so easily done. You don't have any control over that.
So the queue forms up. Jules Gounon is going to be the head of it, the driver who's trying to take pole position. Aggregate second position at the moment. No wheels yet on the 32 Audi. This is a car that's second in the championship. Has already taken the combined championship. It's taken the sprint championship. But at the moment, you just feel the mojo's gone away from Team WRT and Audi. We saw a couple of mistakes from, a mistake from each of the drivers at Valencia 2 weeks ago. And yesterday we saw Charles Weerts bouncing it off the curbs as well, John. But he's the driver that's got to complete the qualifying run. The third into the 32.
Yeah, interesting. We've got the 88 and the 22, the Mercedes and the Porsche, first out, and this is their last shot at getting, certainly in the case of the 88, taking that provisional pole and making it classified pole position. The Lamborghini still up on its air jacks. The 22 Porsche, which is going to have Mathieu Jaminet behind the wheel, will likewise be trying. It's currently 6th in the combined Q1 and Q2, and they're alongside the 54, which is the Dynamic Motorsport entry.
But both of them are 7/10 of a second down on the ultimate pace. I think it's going to be almost impossible for anybody to topple the number 63 Lamborghini. I think Dries Van Tor might think that as well as he sits in the garage. He's done his part in this qualifying session. His car is 7th on aggregate at the moment. Robin Freins did the second time. It's now Charles Weerts who's got to complete the trio. Was that the 63 Lamborghini we saw moving towards pit exit, but moving towards the end of the lap to get the first of the flying laps in. We'll have some cars flashing through turn 16 very soon indeed, and hopefully not tripping up over the others.
It's going to be the 88 Mercedes as the first car to start a flying lap. So there it is coming into turn 14. So this is all to play for, Jules Gounon. It's in your hands. Can you snatch that coveted pole position away from the 63 Lamborghini? A big task for the young Frenchman, but he has got speed aplenty.
He does. It's a hold on to your hats moment, looking at the attitude of the car as he bounced over the curbing to run a wider line as possible out of the chicane onto the final corner, turn 16. You want to have a shot up ahead of him and see if anyone's in his view. They aren't, so he's got what he wants, and he's now got to find if he's got the grip he wants to deliver. That first sector time is coming up, John.
Yeah,
is it going to be green?
Be careful on the exit, because if you overrun, well, that's perfectly acceptable for Jules Gounon. Well, obviously, first car through the first sector, purple.
Right, what we needed, though, in that first sector to topple the Lamborghini, the 63 Lamborghini, the only one to get in the 1 minute in the 29s, but his was a 30.061 second, so he's not found anything to chip away at their advantage, and he was the one that needed to be doing this. So hard to be going third when another car already on aggregate is a third of a second faster than you have managed over the previous two sessions. That's a little bit wide at 8.
Well, he had the back end stepped out, coming through 7 into 8, and the car ran over the curb, and a compromise for Gounon through turn 9, so his second sector time will be below what potentially the car was capable. It may be still, well, it is still purple, but clearly we will have lost maybe a couple of tenths of a second in turn 7, transitioning into turn 8.
So the fastest lap so far was Mirko Bortolotti, 1 minute 44.602 seconds. This car, the 88 car, dipped into the 1 minute 44, so 1 minute 44.8 in the hands of Felipe Fraga. What can Jules Gounon do? Not far to go now, over the chicane for the final time. Gets the car back down onto the deck to go as fast as possible through turn 16, coming over the start-finish line right now. He'll be the first car in this session to set a flying lap.
44.528.
Wow, that was a very, very good lap. That's the fastest lap that car has managed. That's the fastest lap that anyone has managed.
So Andrea Caldarelli in the 60th, the car that is provisionally on pole position. So that was a very good end to the lap from Jules Gounon, but Andrea Caldarelli, and he's got traffic ahead, and he's just going to be hoping. Again, takes that very early entry into turn 5. The way they've worked this Orange One FFF racing car is they've focused a lot on getting the front to respond in a way which is maybe slightly different to some of the other Lamborghinis, although they're all effectively running much the same setup, but there's little detail changes. Gets the wheel over the curve on the inside in turn 9, but the car looks very well hooked up, but only personal best, not a purple. That purple has gone to Philippe Eng. Of course, that's the 82, which is the Evo BMW. It's got the fastest sector time now in sector 1. Again, very interesting indeed. That's our car for the next year for BMW.
It's all about laying down a marker. I'm not sure this lap from Caldarelli is going to be quicker than Gounon's. Gounon's is the fastest one of the weekend so far, 1 minute 44.528. But don't forget, these times are combined on aggregate, and there was a good advantage across the first two runners in the 63 Lamborghini. Caldarelli just has to have a fairly good lap, and surely pole will go to the Orange One FFF Racing Team. Not far to go out of the final corner. What sort of time is he going to manage? Is he going to 44? No, a 1 minute 45.181, but that is still good to put them at the top of the table.
But look at Gounon, he is quick in the middle sector by 0.005 of a second, and this could make the difference between being second on the grid or being pole position, and well, it drops off fractionally in that last sector. So that last lap was a 144.6, an average of 144.823.
Well, I think that was as good a job as we could get from Jules Gounon. I thought there was a fantastic lap, followed by one that was almost identical. In this session, it's Gounon leading from Jaminet, Tunjo, Philippe Eng, and Andrea Caldarelli in that 63 Lamborghini that still has provisional pole, only fifth fastest.
Yeah,
but Fuoco is getting his 71 Iron Links Racing Ferrari to get a move on, but he's got traffic.
And he's got not just traffic, he's got the 63 Lamborghini, sorry, by the 19, and that is whoever's behind the wheel of the 19 is Hamaguchi, could have done a lot better, and that's seriously compromised the pace of the 71 Iron Links Ferrari, a car that was fastest overall in Sector 1, personal best. It puts it up into fifth overall. And Mathieu Jaminet in this session is also, he's gone second quickest in the 22 Porsche, so that is now third overall, second row of the grid, alongside the number 7 TalkSport Mercedes in the overall scheme of things. Andrea Caldarelli is having a poor session by his standards. I don't know why or where the time has gone, but certainly he's middle sector 0.350, and this is his second flying lap of the session.
And he needs to make it work, because at the moment the advantage is only 0.009 of a second clear of the 88 ACA ASP Mercedes, but I think he's done just enough.
I think he's consolidated, but it's been 0.009 of a second between the 88 Mercedes. I just saw it coming out of turn 14, and did it go into that? I think it may have got, no, it hasn't. It's not indicated it's gone into the pits, so we're waiting to see what that will do.
Well, that's extraordinary. If it was just 0.009 of a second, that's nothing across one session. That's 3 sessions combined. The 63, the Lamborghini prevails from the 88 ACA ASP Mercedes. Other drivers trying to see if their times are improving. Any more sort of guest appearances at the front of the field. You certainly do feel for Antonio Fuoco being blocked in that 71
That was going
Ferrari.
to be
It could have been on
lap.
row 2, it's now row 3. But how about the sister car? We're looking at the sister car. Nicholas Nielsen, he's improving, but the 51 Ferrari at the moment is way down the order in 30th position, because we're waiting for it to log a time in this final session. But this is the car that leads the championship. Nicholas Nielsen doesn't have traffic in front of him. That is good, but they're struggling at the moment. This is the car that came here with a 13-point advantage. We had a little chat with Marco Mappelli earlier and said, hey, maybe you're moving into the championship race. Well, at the moment, they're going to be starting on pole position. And where is this 51 Ferrari going to rise to? It was 12th after the second session.
It bounced over the curb on the exit of turn 8. So we go back into the pits, and well, there the 88 is up in his jacks. The Porsche that came in behind it, the 22, Mathieu Jaminet likewise into the pits. Fuoco's in the pits. Philippe Eng in the 82 BMW back into the pits. Oscar Tunjo in this number 7 done a stunning job in this session. Third quickest.
And they're fourth on aggregate at the moment.
That's fourth overall, yes, so great starting position.
And that's a Silver Cup car.
Absolutely.
So that is very, very strong indeed. So Nicholas Nielsen looks to complete this lap behind the Bentley. That's fine, won't trip him up at all. But where will it move him on the charts at the moment? Until that time gets put on the board, that car is down in 34th position. As soon as this time is logged, it's going to fire up the order. Will it get into the top 10? Let's take a look. How far has that been propelled?
So on board with Charles Verts. So he's got personal best, first and second sector, goes 10th.
And the 51 Ferrari had 10th place, just as I mentioned, and then 32 comes and deposes it. So is that the final shot, or is there one more lap to go? Still just under 6 minutes in this session. With a few of the front runners in the pits, it means that there are only about 40 cars on the track. Still traffic aplenty, but they've been very, very good today.
Catches a wheel on the curb on the entry into turn 10. And an old squirrely for the Mercedes. But this is always going to be the final sector, so turn 9, that's up at the top of the circuit. So Oscar Tunjo, not surprisingly, he was very quick in that third overall in the session. And then Christopher Haase Terashenko at the Rouge and then Royal Brokers. So 158 kilometers on the apex of turn 9, all courtesy of AWS.
Yeah, always good to see those comparisons around the circuit. So in this session, it's Gounod from Jaminet, therefore Mercedes from Porsche, Oscar Tuño, top Silver Cup runner, and his Mercedes, Antonio Fuoco, 4th fastest in the Ferrari that was just slightly interrupted at the chicane, but a good mixture of cars. And Philippe Eng, 5th in the BMW M4.
So can Nicholas Nielsen drag anything else out of the Ferrari? He's got the Bentley directly ahead of him in one of the slowest and most sort of fiddly parts of the racetrack. Nothing you can really do. You get stuck behind the car and maybe Nielsen's going to bail out.
You've got to go for it.
Well, he's got time to do another lap, but he's got the Bentley ahead of him, and that's going to be a car that will be difficult to overtake. So the best thing Nielsen can do is back out of it. He's lost 9/10 of a second in that final sector anyway.
That's a shame. But he's still got the Bentley in front of him. He can't afford it, but he can afford to back off and do a further lap and then go for another flyer. But I think right now it's actually gone away from him. I think he's been the unluckiest driver in this session, catching traffic not once but twice. Haven't really talked too much about the car that's leading the Silver Cup class. Ricardo Fella in the 14 is only 14th on the table, but he's improving around this lap. They were some of the last guys out. Mirko Bortolotti very happy. The pole position appears to be theirs by 9,000ths of a second across those 3 sessions.
I mean, interestingly, Andrea Caldarelli, who is absolutely on par with all the other 2 drivers and very often is the quickest, has had a poor session by his standards. But the work done by Bortolotti and Marco Mappelli, who recorded virtually identical times, appears to be sufficient to keep that coveted pole position in the hands of the 63 Lamborghini.
Well, Albert Costa pacing around. It's probably the moment that they tell Caldarelli, oh yeah, we gave you the tyres that Mirko went sideways in turn 13 on. No wonder you didn't get the grip. Right, let's take a look. Albert Costa loves to go well here on home ground. The 163 Lamborghini, 11th fastest in this session. It's about to improve. Are we going to see a sort of top 6 sort of time out of him? Let's see, crossing the start-finish line.
Well, he stays 11th, but 14th overall in the scheme of things. Oh, hey, look at Andrea Caldarelli. Well, is that body language or is that body language? Well, what was going wrong or what happened to him? Because that was a sub-Andrea Caldarelli performance. Well, traffic also was a factor, but just it appeared the car did not perform as it had done for the 2 previous sessions.
Well, it's still job done. The last few cars still going around the track. We've still got 2.5 minutes. Anyone wants to do a late run. Nicholas Nielsen going on to another lap with nobody in front of him. Maybe he will have a role to play in this. But by 9,000ths of a second, the advantage is with the 63 Lamborghini. So hopefully whatever was wrong for Andrea Caldarelli can be sorted out in his mind. But yeah, not taking his helmet off and going straight past his drivers there. When with pole in their hands, shows the level of upset.
Oh yeah, I mean 9,000ths of a second is 9,000ths of a second, but it's too close for what Andrea Caldarelli felt should have been a more dominant qualification from that car. I mean, it's been dominant up until the beginning of Q3, and then it all evaporated for reasons. Maybe we will get to him, or maybe not. Maybe Andrea will be just so unhappy. He just said, no, I'm not going to speak to anybody. I have to cool down and then maybe catch me a bit later.
Yeah, but the bonus point for pole position is in their grasp right now. Can't see anybody else closing in because the next closest guy is the 22 Porsche. That's parked up. That's down in 3rd place on that grid. That's 4/10 of a second down. So the first 2 dominant in the 1st, 2nd and 3rd qualifying sessions.
So looking down just some of the other in this session, the fastest Pro-Am car in this session is the 93 Ferrari, and then the 69 Mercedes, 97 Aston Martin, and then the name that we've been Jerome Blake-Mullen in the 24 Ferrari, 488 Ferrari.
But that lap for Chris Frog,
there we go,
leading the Sky to, and we have the spin from the 66 attempt. So Audi, round that goes. I don't think it's going to interrupt anything particular, not interrupting the other drivers. Certainly the tyres less than their best. But just to finish my point, Chris Froggatt went out in this session in the Sky Tempesta Ferrari, fastest in the Pro-Am class, and that's moved the car on aggregate combined times to fastest Pro-Am runner overall, 26th, ahead of the next car down, which is in 27th, which is the Dominic Baumann, Valentin Pierberg, Martin Conrad, SPS Mercedes. So they just get the bragging rights there. But Raffaele Marcello, Felipe Fraga, happy indeed. They ran them close, and I think they know they did a really good job. Jules Gounon on the left as well. They did as good as well as they could.
An outstanding performance. I think just overall the Lamborghini had the fractional edge. and that was illustrated in the first session when Bortolotti was just under half a second quicker than the 88. Matteo Caroli in the 54 Porsche comes around currently the 12th in this session, and overall, looking down to see where the 54 is, it's 5th overall in the third row of the grid. So that's a good starting position for that car. So you got on the third row of the grid, you got the Porsche and the 71 Ferrari. That was a car driven by Antonio Fuoco, who could have potentially, had he not had that issue coming into turn 12 with Hamaguchi, maybe had put that car into a better position.
So about as close as it could possibly be, and certainly, okay, yes, in the final session, Andrea Caldarelli only 6th fastest, but that was still good to add that time and still come out on top by 0.009. The 88 Mercedes crew oh so nearly overturned what was a big advantage to the 63 Lamborghini, but those cars, perennial front row starters, or front couple of row starters, have done it again here at the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya. Of the car that's that's leading the title race, that will start 11th on the grid, and that's just one position behind the 32 Audi. So the Ironix Ferrari will start 11th, that's car 51. The 32 Audi that's second in the championship will start from 10th, and the car that's third in the championship has just taken the bonus point for pole position, will be starting at the front of the field. So let's go down and hear from our pole guys and speak first of all to Andrea Caldarelli, the 63 Lamborghini at the top.
Andrea, you didn't look too happy coming out of the car, but the hard work has been done. You've got your 4th pole of the season.
Yeah, it's good. It's good for the team. They did an amazing job. And yeah, just 009, but we're still in front. There's another point for the championship, so that's very good for the race this afternoon.
Absolutely. And boys, fantastic times early on in this session. The track was really yours for the first session.
Yeah, as I said before, I mean, I think the key is to try to do it early, because you have a huge peak on this track, and if you manage to do it on the first lap with a clean lap, you have a big advantage. And you saw it throughout the session, some cars getting it right in some sessions and maybe not in others, and then you have a big difference in terms of lap time, and it's quite a special thing on this track. But for us it worked out really well, really close in the end, as we saw. It's really competitive, really close as usual, so it's going to be a really tough and long race, but I think we are ready for the challenge, and we'll try to win the race for sure.
Absolutely, and if you win that race, you can win the championship.
We see, we don't know. We didn't know 2 years ago, we don't know today, so we just have to do the best that we can.
Keep pushing. Thank you, boys. Well done for the pole.
Marco Mappelli so relaxed and laid back. Mirko Bortolotti more sort of excitable and talkable, and Andrea Caldarelli putting behind him whatever his emotions were when he walked back into the garage and recomposes himself, and consummate professional, and explains it. Look, we're on pole position. Oh, did I have a poor? Did anybody mention I had a poor session? Who was that? I didn't see who that was.
No, move on. It's move on, but they know they've got a good balance. They've saved rubber, and that certainly pays dividends as well. So 4th pole position for them across 5 rounds. That is a phenomenal run. I think the only run was at Spa-Francorchamps, where the 88 car. This is qualifying 3, which then got added to the combined pot. So fastest was Jules Gougnot, the best lap of any of the qualifying sessions, 1 minute 44.528 seconds in the 88 ASP Mercedes. Mathieu Jaminet showing that the 22 Porsche is going to be a factor for GPX racing, a third of a second in arrears, just half a second down. Fantastic lap from Oscar Tunio as the number 7 Silver Cup challenger from Top Sport WRT, 3rd quickest. And of course all those times then got combined with the qualifying times from session 1 and session 2, and then on aggregate we get to see who's on top. Look at the margin, just 9 one-thousandths of a second is the difference between the combined times of Mirko Bortolotti, Marco Mappelli and Andrea Caldarelli, and the chasing 88 ACA crew, Marcello, Fraga and Gougnot, as close can be. 0.4 of a second down the GPX Racing Porsche. Matt Campbell, Earl Bamber and Mathieu Jaminet, good job across the board for them. And just over half a second down, leading the Silver Cup class there quite handsomely, Oscar Tunio, who finished the job off, Berkay Bessler, who gets better and better, the Turkish driver, and Marvin Dientz, who set the ball running. They could be a big factor in this race. Look down to 10th place overall. That is the car that's chasing the championship. That's the Team WRT Audi number 32, and they're 1 position ahead of the team that are leading. That's the 51 Ferrari crew of Côme Nedegar, Nicholas Nielsen and Alessandro Pierguidi. Leading runner in the Pro-Am class. We get to that right now. There it is, Chris Froggatt, Jonathan Cui and Rino Mastronardi, they lead that class on aggregate across the 3 qualifying sessions, just in front of Dominic Baumann, Valentin Pierberg and Martin Conrad. 26th and 27th, that's where the 2 leading Pram runners will start in this massive field of 46 cars at the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya. And some drivers who didn't hook it all up have found themselves well down the order, and it's going to be very long, hard job for them to pick their way towards the front of the field. And on combined time, you see we get down right towards the tail of the field. It's only a 2.5 second aggregate across those 3 qualifying sessions between their times and the very fastest of all, which was the aggregate time. Aggregate lap of 1 minute 44.814 seconds combined for the drivers across all 3 sessions. And that, of course, goes to Mirko Bortolotti, Marco Mappelli and Andrea Caldarelli for the Orange One FFF racing team with their Lamborghini. A job very well done, but it was super, super tight. In fact, it was going to be tight from the outset because we had these 3 qualifying sessions, 15 minutes each. Bastien Boos was very quickly out. The Allied Racing Porsche, the first driver to get a flying lap on the board, and he had no traffic. For everyone else, they had to work hard to make sure they also didn't get tripped up. A little spin for the 56 Dynamic Racing Porsche got out of the way very well indeed. But 71 Iron Lynx Ferrari running a little bit wide, but managed to get it back onto the circuit without spinning. But then the driver who'd set the fastest time in the first session, his next lap around at turn 13, that was Mirko Bortolotti. No damage done. The tyres perhaps not as sweet as they might have been, but that was in the bag. And then Marco Mappelli followed and was quick in the second session as well. It was all about exchange of information between the sessions. Dennis Lint going out in the Evo 2 Audi was very quick in session number 2. But then Felipe Fraga started to get a gallop on and tried all he could. The 87 sister car from ACA ASP, Thomas Drouet, also going very well indeed across the course of the sessions. But Mappelli went out and he matched the task that Marco Bortolotti had delivered. And between them, they had very, very good combined times. Then it was up to Andrea Caldarelli to finish the job. And likewise, Jules Gougnon climbing on board the 88 ACA ASP Mercedes. So keen was he that he was the first driver out, followed by the GPX Racing Porsche. With Mathieu Jaminet, Gougnon went out, he had to deliver. He had to get into the 1 minute 44s. That he did. He went to 1 minute 44.528. That was the fastest of the lot, so they were impressed at ACA ASP. Caldarelli only was 6th fastest, in fact 2nd fastest in this session with Mathieu Jaminet, but the job was done. Caldarelli was fired up, but Mirko Bortolotti, Marco Mappelli and Caldarelli got the jump. They will be starting on pole position.